Hello and welcome to episode 37 of the PvA Nightly Rundown. I'm your host Luke Croft, and this is the nightly gaming news show where I run you through all of the gaming news that you may have missed so that you don't look like a fucking idiot at the water cooler tomorrow. Hope everybody had a fantastic Tuesday. Mine was loaded with meetings, so as good as it gets. As good as it gets. From 9:30 till the moment I got home, I was in meetings. Well, the moment I left to go home. And we got a light news day today. Not a ton going on in the gaming world. And so we're just going to, chill out for a bit, probably end the show a little early and jump into the 222 roll lock on Overwatch with one Larry Hunt. So, yeah, and I also realized that my audio setup is going to have to change in order for that to happen. And I need to figure out exactly what I want to make that happen. Problem for a different time. Slow news day today. Let's just jump right into it and see where the day takes us. Let's jump into the games releasing today. It is Tuesday, which means it is a big release day for games. This is from Zach Zweisen over at Kotaku. Releasing today, we have Exception on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Vasara Collection on PS4, Vita, and PC. Vita lives, baby. Vita lives. Genesis on PS4. Ancestors Legacy on PS4 and Xbox One. Rebel Galaxy Outlaw on PC. Friday the 13th, the game Ultimate Slasher Edition on the Switch, Never Give Up on Switch, Emberlight on PC and Mac, Inner on PC, Cult on PC, Gravity Control on PC, Vicious Circle on PC, Dicey Dungeons on PC and Mac, and Legends on PC. So yeah, Friday the 13th, hitting it up on the Switch. Interesting. I'm correct in thinking, right, that all of Friday the 13th is online, right? It's a fully online game. There's no like PvE modes that you play or local multiplayer kind of deal, right? So yeah, that's cool. That's coming to the Switch. Also, the new Switch Lite, not Switch Lite, I'm sorry. The new, beefier Nintendo Switch with the improved battery life is available in stores. I saw today where GameStop is running a deal where if you trade in your current model, you can get the new and improved model for $75, which I don't know. I feel like that's a decent deal if you were planning on upgrading anyway and aren't interested in holding on to your Switch. So yeah, those are all of your games releasing today. Let's jump right down into the news though, guys. We're going to kind of speed run through tonight because I'm really, really excited about 222 roll lock, and the fact that I've got friends who are excited about it as well is pretty ballin'. So first item on the list, Bungie explains why microtransactions are a good thing for Destiny. This is from Eddie Mackich over, I believe it's Maku. We just call him our boy Eddie over at GameSpot. I'm going to read quite a bit of this to you. It says, Destiny 2 director Luke Smith wrote an incredibly in-depth and detailed blog post today in which he covered numerous hot-button issues about Bungie's sci-fi space game. One of the topics that he touched on was microtransactions. Smith started off by stating that microtransactions are important for live service games like Destiny, and that the money derived from microtransactions helps fund other parts of the game. Quote, MTX, which is microtransactions, is a big part of our business being a live game, Smith said. Quote, I'm not going to say microtransaction funds the studio or pays for projects like Shadowkeep. It doesn't wholly fund either of those things, but it does help fund ongoing development of Destiny 2 and allows us to fund creative efforts we otherwise couldn't afford. For example, Whisper of the Worm's ornaments were successful enough that it paid dev cost-wise for the 0-hour mission rewards to be constructed. This shit matters, end quote. Destiny 2 microtransaction store Eververse lets you spend real money to acquire silver, which you can then spend to buy things like shaders and bright engrams, as well as emotes and various other extras. Looking ahead, Eververse will move to the director, which means players will no longer need to visit the tower to access it. I don't think we're saying anything new in this story. I don't think we're going to unearth anything new, but I think especially as we've had a lot of conversations around loot boxes on this show, I think it's important for us to take a step back and understand, and we mentioned this on PvA Radio, I believe it was last week, about how oftentimes we conflate the conversation about microtransactions and loot boxes into a singular conversation, when in reality, it's not that they're two separate things, but it's a little unfair to talk about them as if they're the same things. It's one of those situations like every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. Of course, loot boxes are a form of microtransactions, but we've seen tons of different games leverage microtransactions to varying degrees of success. And it's true, there are financial reasons that matter for these studios, and there are financial reasons that microtransactions exist, and it's not just a matter of greed. These things are being poured back into these games. I mean, I think about a game like Overwatch, which I've been pumped to play all day. I bought Overwatch at release, and I've bought a copy of Overwatch for PC. So that is $60 on release, and I think I bought it for $20 on PC. So I've spent a total of $80 on Overwatch, and I have not had to pay a dime for anything. No, none of the maps, none of the seasonal game modes, none of the new characters. I haven't paid any real money for skins, anything like that. I played that game for like 1,600 hours. A shitload of time in Overwatch I've spent $80 on that they continue to be able to develop for, because microtransactions in that game exist. And it's done in a very kind of non-invasive way. You can't pay to win in the game. It has a loot box mechanic, but the loot box mechanic is strictly for cosmetics, skins, voice lines, sprays, those kinds of things. It's nothing that alters the actual gameplay for the game. I would much rather than move to a microtransaction model that says you can buy these skins for X amount of dollars, like a flat rate. But the reason that I have only paid $80 for that game, and I've gotten all of the subsequent support content that's come out for that game following its release, is because microtransactions exist in that game. And there are people who I know personally who have spent a lot of money on microtransactions in Overwatch, and that money just gets funneled right back into the development of the game. And so I think we need to be smarter about our conversations as a gaming community around microtransactions, and really define what it is that we're willing to live with and that we're not willing to live with. And I think that some of these things have been clearly defined by, a lot of people, but I just want to kind of lay it out here. I am totally okay with microtransactions when they're fully cosmetic. In an ideal world, I would love for microtransactions to be modeled in such a way that I know exactly what I'm paying for when I buy it. Let's get rid of blind loot boxes. Let's get rid of like the random mechanics in those microtransactions. I would love to move to, hey, we have seasonal events. There's skins and sprays and emotes available for it. You can pay a flat rate for the things that you want. I would have spent a lot more than the $80 I've spent in Overwatch if I was just able to go in and buy a skin that I want or a voice line that I want. I'm not going to buy loot boxes because that's not my speed. But if they were to say, even if it was like, hey, $4.99 for this skin, I'd probably do it if it was a cool enough skin. And so I think it's a good thing that Luke Smith points this out in this blog of just like, hey, we don't want to overstate this. We do not want to overstate the financial impact that microtransactions have had on the development of Destiny. It does not keep our studio afloat. It does not fully pay for expansions and products like that. That would misrepresent what we're receiving, and it would also kind of damn them from being able to actually ask people to spend money on those expansions if they were being paid for by microtransactions. But he's like, there are real life things in this game that exist because of microtransactions. And I would love to see like the heat map of what percentage of Destiny players buy spend money on microtransactions. Because it's probably, and I'm sure that it's like close to 80% of people who have spent some money in Destiny. But when it comes to like significant chunks of money, or people who are regularly going in and buying stuff, paying for microtransactions, I'm sure that those people consistently spending money are a much smaller percentage of the player base. And I think it's cool for them to be able to say, like, look at what we've been able to fund in this game. You know, the 0-hour mission rewards, being constructed is because of the money that I've poured into this game. And I wish developers would be more transparent about that stuff. Show us, like, hey, the money you've put into this paid for this future piece of content. And that would motivate people as fans of these franchises and of these games to say, I'm gonna part with some of my money because I see that it is being poured back into the game to develop some of the things that I love. Like in Overwatch, like, hey guys, the loot boxes that you buy, that pays for paid for the development of Lucio Ball, or it paid for the development of some of the PvE events that take place during the anniversary. And like, we all kind of subconsciously understand that that's how it works, but seeing it just directly laid out here from somebody at a studio is really cool to see to me. And so I think we just need to calm ourselves in microtransaction, because the other option is we're paying piecemeal for every little bit of content that comes out, or we're paying astronomically more for the games that are being developed. And would we rather live in a world where we're paying $90 for a game that has no microtransactions, or $60 for a game that has these like relatively good microtransactions that don't impact gameplay? Me personally, I'd rather just keep paying the $60 and then not buying the microtransactions, kind of like I do now. Because I also don't think that we can put that cat back in the bag either. If we raise the price of video games to $80, $90, that's not going to stop the EAs of the world from putting microtransactions into the game. And so let's continue to have conversations, I think, about what are best practices when implementing microtransactions. Be vocal when we see kind of shit. Like we saw like Fallout 76, the astronomical amount they were charging for some of their cosmetic upgrades and their cosmetic microtransactions. Like, continue to call that stuff out, but recognize this is the reality that we live in. And it's probably best for us to just accept it and be able to frame the conversation around it. So, again, not a ton of new thought that I'm giving there to this. This is all stuff we've said either on this show or on, PvA radio. But I think it's worth noting every now and again, especially as the heat gets turned up on the loot box conversation. Next item on the list, I've been talking about it. 222 Roll Lock is in the game, baby, in a live beta for Overwatch across all platforms. If you play on Xbox, if you play on PlayStation, if you play on PC, you do not have to have access to the PTR. You will be able to go in tonight and play in the 222 Roll Lock. And boy, oh boy, so sweet. So refreshing. I've been playing around a little bit with the 222 lock in PTR. I am a huge fan of it. I think that it is going to be something that is going to pull a lot of people back into Overwatch. I was on Discord today, and several people saying like jumping back in to Overwatch because of the 222 roll lock. friends of mine coming back and saying like, hey, tonight I want to hop into Overwatch because of the 222 roll queue. And one of the things that I've noticed a couple things playing in the PTR, and take this all with a grain of salt because the PTR is very much a calmer expression of Overwatch. People get far less tilted in the PTR because they recognize that the games don't matter. It's not actually impacting your SR. So take some of this with a grain of salt, but I've noticed some things. The first is my feeling when I'm playing. I'm not a very anxious individual, and I don't want to overstate that I feel real anxiety when I'm playing Overwatch, but there is like a twinge of a semblance of anxiety when you're playing. And like me, I'm a tank main, and normally it's not a big deal. If I get into a game, I'm generally going to be playing tank. Maybe one game out of 10, I'm having to play a healer, and one game out of like 30, I'm having to play DPS. This removes any form of that anxiety from me, and I'm sure it will for a lot of people, where when I go in, I know, hey, I feel pretty competent with every single tank on the game. If I queue up as a tank, I'm going to be playing a role that I feel very, very comfortable in. So that's awesome. But the second thing is it's inspiring me to go back to my roots and learn some DPS characters. I'm going to have to suffer through a wait time in the queues, and I'm interested to see what those wait times are looking like when we log on tonight. But I've kind of just gone to tank because I'm like, well, I know I'm going to get into a game. Somebody's going to insta-lock these two DPS, and I'm not going to want to play DPS because I want to help my team win. But now I can queue up as a DPS, get in the game, and as we're searching, I'm not going to be competing for one of these slots because I already have it. So it's going to allow me also to branch out into learning other roles. And even, learning I play a couple healers, I think, pretty well, but learning even more healers. And the fact that there's separate SRs tied to each of the roles is awesome. So I can go hard feed on Genji, as I will, multiple times tonight probably. But realize that it's not impacting my tank SR, my tank ranking, which I imagine will be the best ranking out of the three because it's what I'm most competent at. I also noticed in the PTR that it cut down a lot on toxicity because people aren't bitching about what they're going to play and who needs to play what. And that it doesn't eliminate within roles that, you may get two off tanks or two off healers or, two projectile DPS or something like that. And there's going to continue to be infighting regarding those things, but it removes some of the places where people can be toxic. So that's all of the good of it. I think it's going to pull people back in. I think it creates a much less toxic experience. It's funny though, man. I've been ingrained in the Overwatch community since the beta. I'm a huge fan of the competitive scene. Big fan of the Overwatch League, and the community, the Overwatch community is just hilarious to me. There's no pleasing them. There's no satisfying them. It's hilarious to me. There's already people complaining about the meta right now with the 222 roll lock, and they're like, oh man, it's just Hog Orisa, and it's Reaper May. There's so much May. It's all just chain CC, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, look, you got to step back and realize if you didn't like dive, you didn't like goats, you didn't like double sniper, you didn't like triple DPS, if you didn't like somber goats, and if you don't like bunker, and if you don't like this, I've been hearing it referred to as the pulled pork meta, and I am that's the one that gets my vote. If you've been a part of this game for this long, and there's not a single meta where you're like, all right, this is the one that I really like, maybe it's just time to admit you don't like Overwatch. Like, if you're watching Overwatch League now and you're like, oh my gosh, it's just mirror comp after mirror comp with this stuff. Like, maybe it's just time to realize you don't like Overwatch. Yo, what is up? Make me a mod. Maybe next time, man. Stop by the next time. Ask me, and we'll see. All right, but for now, we're going to do this. Um, but here's the thing: as long as there are no hero bans, and as long as there is the ability to switch mid-game, there's always going to be a combination of 6 heroes that will be the strongest combination of 6 heroes available in the game. Always. And especially on the pro side of things, they are always going to play the strongest combination of 6 heroes that they can to give them the best chance of winning. That's just the nature of Overwatch. So it's not that you don't like this meta or don't like that meta or don't like this. You may just need to admit, like, you don't like mirror compositions in the way that Overwatch is currently set up with its character pools and the way that you can just switch in between games. There's always going to be that combination. And so in the pro scene, you are always going to see one composition dominate in terms of playtime. Doesn't mean there isn't some variety within it, but there's always going to be at least some level of some level of mirror compositions being rolled out in Overwatch League. So this change was never gonna save us from that. And I'm not sure exactly how you go about trying to save that. The big thing people are kind of railing on now is, oh, well, the problem with Overwatch isn't role locks, it's not goats, it's not, these things. It's the fact that there's so many objective types that, like, it's all about point presence. And so you just try to get as much healing, as much sustain, as the largest health pools, like, to have presence on the point. And I'm like, this is how the game has been since the day it came out. Like, it's just the nature of it. And yes, the game has evolved to be like health pools and point presence and those sorts of things. But, like, unless we just want to look at Overwatch and say we got to fundamentally change everything about it, like, I don't think that's going to get solved. And I don't think it's a bad thing either. I've thoroughly enjoyed this stage 4 of the Overwatch League. I think it's fun to watch. And I think, the next stage that rolls around, like when we get into the next season of Contenders, like, we're going to see a different composition rolling around. We should be cool with that. So 222, stick around. We're going to be trying it out on the Xbox later today. Next item on the list. Session launches via Steam Early Access September 17th. This is from Sal Romano over at Gamatsu. It's a skateboard simulation game. Session will launch for PC via Steam Early Access on September 17th, followed by Xbox One via Xbox Game Preview in October. Developer, is that Creature, or am I just supposed to say Creature? Studios announced the final release is expected to launch in early 2020. Here's an overview of the game. You can see, you can read it there. Very much skate inspired. It's going to be console exclusive to Xbox. Did they actually? They released an early access teaser trailer. Let's check this out. There's probably licensed music in there. This isn't there. I'm gonna get fucked on copyright. Yeah, this part's getting muted. That's all right. We talk a lot on this show about, like, a question we ask a lot is, like, is there a place for a game like this or a game like that? Like, do people really care about Need for Speed still? There is totally a space for this game still. And I'm sure through, like, EA Access and the fact that Skate is backwards compatible, they've seen a lot of evidence that shows people still love playing these games and want to play this game. This is going to be fun. It's going to be dope. So September 17th on Steam Early Access, then October 2019 on Xbox Game Preview. Pretty awesome. I think the trailer goes on for a few more. Oh no, it's just yeah. The song is "Fuck Up the Party." courtesy of Rum Committee. So I am excited about some Session. I think that game's going to be hella fun. Hella fun. And if the music in that game is like the music in that trailer, I'm all about that too. So be on the lookout for that, September 17th. Last item on the list with Need for Speed in mind. This is from Sammy Barker over at Push Square. It says, Need for Speed Heat will turn up the temperature this week. The article reads, Need for Speed Heat is almost certainly the name of the next entry in EA's arcade racing series, as using a thumbnail grabber on the title soon-to-be-revealed debut trailer uncovers the upcoming release's logo. The subtitle is leaked before, so while we'll obviously need to wait for official confirmation, it's as good as legit from where we're sitting. A previous rumor, which accurately predicted the aforementioned name, suggested that the game will have a Miami setting, which certainly makes sense looking at the logo. As is a series staple, there will be cop chases triggered by a heat meter, which dovetails with the name. The controversial speed cards from previous entry, Need for Speed Payback, will also be completely removed. Another interesting thing, and I saw this, was that they completely nuked all old information about the last two Need for Speed games off of their YouTube page, which is really interesting to me. So it looks like they really want to kind of get away from some of the stuff of the previous games, especially the speed card controversy, and then there was a lot of weird stuff in the 2015 release, with like the live action shit as well. So Need for Speed Heat kind of leaning into that Miami Vice 80s vibe that we saw with like the 2K20 cover that has Dwayne Wade on it, stuff like that. Like, people love that aesthetic. And we talked a lot about Need for Speed last night, so I'm not going to rehash a lot of that conversation. And plus, I really just want to play Overwatch. So we're going to wrap up the PvA Nightly Rundown right there for our YouTube audience. We appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, every single weeknight over here on twitch.tv/PVA Radio at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, except for Wednesdays, because that's when we do PVA Radio at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you can't catch us live, you can find us over on youtube.com/PVA Radio, where we upload all of our videos the very next day, break it out topic by topic. I will get yesterday's episode up as well. Sorry, I hit the ground running this morning. So that's going to do it for our show today. Stick around over on Twitch. We're going to be playing some 222 Roll Lock over on Overwatch on the Xbox One. And until next time, guys, we love you. Goodbye.